Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Galactic Core podcast. We've been pumping them out for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We've been going pretty manic with loads and loads of stuff going on. Make sure you're checking out all the previous episodes, and you can check everything that's been going down. We've been covering Andor. We had Daredevil before that. It's the second anniversary. It's been mental for quite the last 5 or 6 weeks on here. And I'm going to be taking a little bit of a short break after Andor, just for a few weeks, just to recuperate, get back on track, and then we're going to be hitting back in June, towards the end of June, to be fair, with the likes of 28 Years Later's coming out. Ironheart drops on the 24th of June. Manic month of July with Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, Fantastic Four. So I need a couple of weeks just to recuperate before going mental through summertime. But of course, we're here to talk about Andor. But just before that, in case you aren't following the show and you don't know where to get it, jump onto Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. You'll find Galactical Podcast all over those platforms. Make sure you're following. There's 76, 77 episodes now that you can catch up on. So make sure you're popping back there to get what you need. But of course, as always, because we're talking about something really good, I've got a special guest to chat about it. Everyone knows this face. It's a beautiful face. He's been on the show a few times before. You should be absolutely familiar with it. Friend of the show as well. Please welcome from the So Sidious podcast, it's Caleb. How we doing, buddy?
How's it going? I was waiting for maybe that applause. I don't know.
It was, and you know what? Because I turned my music down, the starting music for the start bit, let me try that again. Here's Caleb from So Sidious. Oh, it's still not playing. What's going on? There we go. Finally.
Thank you.
All technical issues. Love it.
No, well, thank you for having me. It's always a great time to come on your podcast, and we love having you over there as well.
I absolutely love it. What's going on with Why So Sidious at the moment? What have you guys been covering?
We've been doing the same kind of thing. Andor, we just did a Thunderbolts episode. All three of us got together for that. We managed to see it opening weekend. It is on YouTube right now. It should be on Apple and Spotify soon. And then we're also doing Last of Us. We're doing kind of a mini Last of Us review with our Week in Geeks. Not like a full review, but yeah, it's definitely been a pretty crazy season so far. Are you watching that show?
No, I mean, not as it's going out live. I mean, with season 1, we got it on Blu-ray after it.
Okay.
Because it's on a subscription channel over here that we don't subscribe to.
Right.
So we are going to wait to watch it. We will watch
What's
it.
it on over there? There's no Max.
It's on something called, we don't get HBO Max over it. It's called Sky Atlantic.
Okay.
So I think Sky TV do pick up a lot of the like HBO stuff.
Okay.
But like Dune Prophecy, for example, was on Sky Atlantic. I haven't got around to watching that, and it's actually one of the more expensive ones, which is a fucking shame. So it's kind of annoying. It's like it's only just below Disney Plus in its costs, and they don't have that much like stuff outside of everything, because obviously when you got like Disney, Amazon Prime, a couple of the others that tend to have more of the stuff that we watch and cover rather than Sky Atlantic. So I have to see if they've got like a month free pass or something.
Right, bust it out real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a few bits and pieces to watch on there. Just quickly, how did you find Thunderbolts?
You messed with me on Instagram, and I was like,
I did.
I was like, no way! Like, this movie looks so good. All the trailers look solid, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a refreshing movie I mean, I enjoyed Captain America 4, but I think this was much better of a film, and it kind of set things up for the future as well, which I was really looking forward to, because Doomsday comes out next year. We don't really know what's going on, so at least they did a little bit.
And you got Fantastic Four ready between now and that, haven't we? So in terms of films, setting stuff up. So
yeah,
it's obviously this is going to be the big setup, though, isn't it? Fantastic Four for everything.
Right.
So, but yeah, just because you mentioned that I set you up, so let me just explain to the listeners and stuff what happened. So I put on my Instagram story, obviously a picture of being at the cinema watching Thunderbolts, because obviously I'm in the future compared to America, so I was to see it a bit earlier. And Caleb messaged me almost as soon as I was at the cinema and just said, "Oh, how was it?" And I was just like, shocking and not in a good way. And he's like, "Are you serious?" He's like, worse or better than Cap 4? And I was like, worse than Quantumania. And he's
like, so messed up.
And he's like, fuck. He's like, the trailers make it look so good. And then I message back like about an hour later going, I'm just fucking with you, mate. It's all good. Because what was funny as well is that you obviously put that, I think, probably in your guys' group chat, didn't you? Because
I did.
5 minutes after you did that, I got a message from JD going, did you not like Thunderbolts? It was bad. And I just messaged him back going, I'm just fucking with love. It's okay. It's all good.
Oh man.
So yeah, that was brilliant. I'm sorry, I did it to quite a few people, to be fair, because I had quite a few people message me from American podcasts asking me what it was like, and I was just like, yeah, it was shit. It was all right. But obviously it wasn't. It was all good. So
It was good, yeah.
we are here though. I mean, before we jump into anything else, just let everyone know where we can find Why So Sidious if they're not familiar, or if they're just lazy and haven't jumped on and pressed that follow button yet.
Yeah, all the same platforms as you: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, TikTok, X, Instagram. We're looking to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We just hit 800.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely YouTube is what we're trying to push more lately.
You guys have been working that. I've become so lazy.
The JD's going in with all the shorts too. The shorts help out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he does it. He works his ass off on TikTok, doesn't he? So I still love it that every time he does a giveaway, he has to now state, because of me, that it's for US only.
That's so funny.
After he picked a question that I did to be a winner of comics, and he insisted on sending. I told him he didn't have to. I was just wanted to take part and give you guys a question.
Right.
But he insisted on sending me the comics, which he said it took him like 5 attempts and cost a little bit of money. Oh. So every time now he's like US only, no internationals, nothing.
That's funny.
So I always laugh and go, "Oh, that's my fault." Yeah. Yeah, make sure you're getting out there, following Why So Sidious. It's definitely worth it. You guys have a lot of good stuff going on. You cover a little bit more than I do as well, because I tend to stick to mainstream. You cover, well, probably more of the mainstream stuff than I do. So, in terms of, because you do Last of Us, you did Dune Prophecy, like I mentioned before, because I really wanted to watch that, but haven't had a chance.
Right.
Are you thinking about playing this Dune game that's just coming out? Was it Dune Awakenings or whatever it is?
It looks very good. At first, I was kind of worried, like it might be another Starfield. I don't know if you played that game. I didn't play it, but I heard it was kind of too much, too boring. I played
like 5 hours and gave up.
Yeah. But yeah, the more I see, the more the story looks cool, where you're like, you either pick Atreides or Harkonnen, and then you can kind of work your way up to the top, and you can build your own fort on Arrakis. So it looks fun.
Well, I've been seeing quite a bit of the of clips from it, because it's on like live beta for like the next 4 or 5 days. So there's clips of it going out around, and just seeing people being chased down by sandworms.
Yeah,
how terrifying that looks. So I was like, yeah, it's definitely what I was thinking about picking up if I ever have time, because I got about 2/3 of the way through Star Wars Outlaws and then haven't played my Xbox in like about 3 months now. So so I need to get back into it.
Did you like that game? I played it for maybe 5 hours and kind of gave up.
I thought it was all right, to be fair. I was kind of enjoying it. I mean, I thought there was an awful lot of side missions, though, an awful lot of things that you've got to go off and do on the side of like the main story. I'm never a big side mission person. I prefer to like have it all be plot based rather than like shitloads of side missions, and like have that the way to like gain extra abilities and build up whatever and stuff like that. So yeah, an awful lot of side stuff, but I don't mind it, to be fair. I will get back to it at some point. Obviously, it's not so riveting that I couldn't put it down.
Exactly.
I put it down, had a baby, and then kind of forgot to go back to it. So so yeah, but I will get back to it at some point. But yeah, June I definitely want to get back into for sure. So, but we are here to discuss one thing in particular, and that is Andor. So, episodes 7 to 9 this week. We knew what was going to be coming up based on the last few weeks of building up, and to obviously match up with the Star Wars Rebels timeline of what was going on as well.
That was cool.
Episodes 1 to 6. How are you feeling about those?
It wasn't my favorite. I think the first seasons 1 through 6 was a lot better, but it wasn't bad. The acting was great. The writing's great. I love the costumes, and the set designs are always awesome. They're out of the volume, they're not doing that anymore. But it was slow. I feel like, Andor on that planet with the 2 fighting groups against each other could have been 1 episode probably. They spaced that out a little bit, and they kept going back to Bix in the cornfields.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, but I feel like she was like a 5-minute scene in the first episode, a 5-minute scene in the second episode, and then a 10-minute scene in the third episode. I was like, But I do like how now everything is kind of coming together for that Gorman story. They were all spread out doing their own thing, and then Mon Mothma, Luthen, Andor, they're all on the same kind of plane now.
Yeah, I was thinking how boring these episodes have been, and everything could have been really condensed down. Like even the wedding stuff in those first 3 episodes, it was like that could have been 1 episode. I know the idea is to show like and obviously Mon Mothma just getting white girl wasted, and the whole point it just supposed to show how much stress she's under because she's balancing like 5 different things all at once, and in terms of like being a senator, her daughter, the rebellion, and her friends and stuff like this. So it was just kind of like, yeah, fair enough. And I was wondering, like, once we get to the end, are we going to be able to watch it back and see that it does kind of cohesively match together? Because I thought the year time jumps that we've had as well kind of broke it apart too much. Because you're like,
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks before this week's ones, everything is condensed down into like a couple of days in terms of when everything's been happening.
Right.
And then you jump a year and you see no consequence of what's happened before. So like Bix with her like PTSD from being tortured at the end of season 1, and like she's dealing with that at the start, and then we see a little bit of like in the second week's episodes of her like not coping too well, but because other shit's then happened, and then this week she's fine because it's been a year and she's dealing with shit now.
Or even Willman and Saw Gerrera, we had that scene of them, huffing the gas at the end, and then it kind of jumped a year later and was like, was he with them the whole time? Is he back with Luthen? And they didn't really explain it.
Because we'll get onto it. He seems to be back with Luthen now. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I was like, if we don't get Saw Gerrera next week, that's kind of been really pointless. Because what was the point in including that scene just to have Saw, like, you're just taking the Rogue One cast and littering them throughout this second season. And if you don't do more with Saw Gerrera next week, then what was the point in having that in the first place?
Right.
Although quite interestingly, filmed not too far away from where I live, the Saw Gerrera stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a map on Instagram the other day of all the different bits of Andor season 2 they filmed in the UK, and then I just went, and it was just like Saw Gerrera hangar scenes, and it just showed it was literally like about 45 minutes away from where I live. So
that's pretty cool.
So always fun to know that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so to me, season 6 was the only good one. So personally, from the first 6 episodes, that kind of started to tell a bit more of the story and start to pull it all together as they moved towards the Gorman massacre. Obviously, they've technically already had one massacre, but they talked about obviously a couple of years after the Empire formed, Tarkin arrived and a bunch of people congregated in the plaza and wouldn't let him land, and so he opened fire on them and landed on a bunch of them. And my knowledge is that that was adapted from the Legends version of the Gorman massacre.
Okay, I was wondering.
So they wanted to sort of include that, I guess, and so they've already had one massacre, and now we've got a second one on our hands. So we knew coming into this week this was going to be the Gorman massacre, but I thought this week's episodes were brilliant. 7 was a shorter episode, but it was all built up, and if you'd have had no gap in terms of like no credits rolling between 7 and 8, I think it would have been perfect to them, because these 2 episodes basically just built up the tension and built up getting everyone into position. So getting you've got Cyril and Dedra and the rest of the Empire on there, the Gorman front, and obviously Luthen sending Cassian to be there as well, and Wilmot being there as well, and everything was just manoeuvred into place, and then just to see it go down was fucking unreal. So and obviously then we get the extraction episode after that as well. So what were your thoughts on when episode 9's credits roll and you can sit back and go, holy shit, so these week's 3 episodes, what were your first thoughts?
Yeah, it was definitely a big step up from the first 6. There's definitely felt like the stakes were a lot higher in these 3 episodes. Especially, I mean, even episode 9 with Mon Mothma, her getting, that whole extraction mission and her denouncing the Empire was very exhilarating. And I mean, they kind of got out of it a little easier than I thought. But it was still a great 3 episodes. The Gorman massacre, same thing with them, like, the chants, and then they're like singing the national anthem, and it's like you can just feel like the tragedy that's about to take place. Like the vibes are off, and the way the Empire is setting things up, it's like, oh man, this is not going to go well.
I mean, in terms of the way that it went down, were you expecting them to show as much as they did, or for some of it to be as brutal, really? Because obviously, we know it's not going to be necessarily X-rated or anything like that, but even seeing things like the security droids throwing people across or throwing them into walls and just instantly dying, and obviously people being shot left, right, and centre was something we're used to seeing, to be fair. And also just the way that the Empire's tactics go about it. So they obviously barricade the HQ to open up the plaza to draw everyone in, then encase them all with troopers around everywhere, and then just the setup of the fact that they want to obviously incite this uprising, and so they've got snipers on the roof that clever as well that the dude that was in charge, he like wanted a bunch of green troopers, like young inexperienced
Yeah.
ones. So they were going to be cannon fodder essentially. So he marches them, it gets their like inexperienced sergeant to march them out there. Then one of
Hmm.
the snipers takes one of them out, and they're like,
Yeah.
"That's the crowd, open fire!" And then it just fucking kicks
It
off from
was
there.
perfect. I knew he's like, why do you want us to patrol out there right now? It's crazy. And I was like, no, he wants you guys to start some shit so we can do a massacre.
So yeah, overall, then, what were your thoughts on how they set up the massacre and then how it actually played out?
Oh, an episode like episode 7. Yeah, it was a good build up because even the dad, Karis, is that his name?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know who you mean. Yeah.
He even starts to see the writing on the wall. Cyril starts to see the writing on the wall where, yeah, this is not what we were planning at first. Like, and that was the feeling I got after episode 6 with Vel and stealing the transport with all the weapons on it. It's like, yeah, this mission might end well, but what's going to happen afterwards? The retaliation of this is not going to go well. Like, you're messing with the Empire, and this is a very important planet to them. They want the resources. So yeah, I knew it wasn't going to go well, but I felt like they did a great job building it up.
It really did. It was effective. Like I said, just moving everything into place. Luthen as well, using Wilmot in a way, but he's obviously calling on Cassian. He's like, because Cassian seems to have veered away from wanting to do stuff with Luthen now, and he's like buying into the rebellion as a whole. Because obviously they started this off as like individuals, and I think that's when Luthen's got lost in it. Because Luthen is still acting like he's got to do stuff individually, and we saw even in last week's episode, he's like, "There's too much going on. I've got my finger in too much stuff. Like I can't keep track of it all now. It's just out of control for me." Whereas the rebellion's moved forward, more people are joining it. Cassian's buying into the idea of that, and he's wanting to maybe like leave Luthen's idea of, because Luthen is more in line with maybe Saw Gerrera, isn't he, in terms of like the way that they want to do things.
Yeah.
And Luthen's like, this is all or nothing. He's like, you either die fighting the Empire or we win. There is nothing, no other options. And Cassian's maybe not buying into that anymore. And he's like, I think with the rebellion we can do more, or we can do it better as well. So interesting that Cassian was sort of swaying that way. What were your thoughts on the return to Yavin 4? Because obviously we saw this in episode 1 when we had the shit episodes with the, like you said, the two this crew that had split in two and then were fighting.
That's the same planet.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking. That's what I thought.
Well, yeah, because they did it at the end of the episode when Cassian manages to escape and flies off. You see the Yavin 4 temples in the background. So that was the only purpose those episodes served to me, was to show Yavin 4.
Right.
And then I'm like, but we're going back there anyway, so why did you need to have that little drop? But yeah, return to Yavin 4, you see the rebellion building, and they've done a lot in the last year since last week's episode.
Yeah. They did, like, the year time jump, you can tell a lot of Splinter Cell forces kind of joined together. And obviously this is like the main rebel home base throughout the original trilogy, which we're leading up to. That was also cool to see. It's nice to see them just more organized and not like, because all the other times it's like these two people are both against the Empire, but they can't trust each other. So they end up killing each other. And that's just what the Empire wants. All these factions out there fighting against each other, making their job easier.
Yeah, good point. I think that was maybe part of the point of those first few episodes, with
Right.
the capture, because Cassian even said, we've helped supply you when you've been fighting the Empire, and now you're turning on each other." And it's sort of like, so that, I guess that was maybe, I can see the little bit of point of it, but again,
it was drawn out.
Yeah, it was definitely could have been cut down. We see something that's brought into this that we haven't really seen in a lot of in mainstream styles before. It's legend stuff, but they finally bring in the idea of Force healers. So the only time we've ever seen this before was, like, obviously we're going back quite a few. We're going back 6 years now. So obviously Grogu does it in the Mandalorian, Force healing, and
right.
literally a week or a couple of days later, Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, is released, and we see Rey do it in there. So literally the only 2 times we've seen it was in the space of like 3 days.
This is Rey's grandma.
Is she the one that got it on with Daddy Pops?
Her maybe her daughter did. Yeah.
But obviously the idea here is that there are people. Obviously, we know that there are different people, or there are varying abilities. Sorry, of people with force powers. Some people obviously at Jedi level or Sith level and have obviously a strong, easy access to the Force. Other people obviously might only feel it a little bit. Obviously, I guess they've changed the way that we're supposed to view people gaining Force abilities in the whole Ahsoka series when that's come to the forefront that if you train hard enough, you can access your ability to use the Force rather than you're born to naturally use it
I
like it
didn't like
used to
that.
be. No, we won't get into that because that's another whole fucking rage
Can of
bait.
worms.
Yeah. But the idea that you've got someone that can Force heal I think is a good thing because it's a Legends thing that they've sort of bringing over now, and you can have someone that can sort of do that a little bit. I thought what was great here is this woman was like, these people come and I've been pretending for ages, but she was drawn to Cassian, and very much on the nose where she's like, I just got this sort of sense or this vision that you have a place to be and you're a messenger, and it's like, okay, Scarif Beach sending the messages, sending the death plans, star plans to Rebellion.
Yeah,
A little bit on the nose, but nice that they're tying it in because what I always thought about was good about Rogue One is that it's a story of hope and it's the rebellion, getting victories against the Empire, but the idea is behind that was as well it was that the Force was pushing all of these people forward to come together, and the Force got each of them exactly where they needed to be just to complete their sort of mission to get everything rolling and get the Death Star plans out. So you look on Scarif and the fact that each of them sort of just get to complete their mission before getting killed off or dying, and the Force just gets them to where they need to be to do that. And the whole thing with like Jin of like the necklace and trust in the Force, as a mum would say. So the fact that they bringing this back in now and they're sort of like planting the seeds of like a Force healer who has access to the Force in maybe in a smaller way, but has access to it. And she's kind of lost her way as well since maybe the Jedi got extinguished because she looked more than old enough to have been around with the Jedi.
Right.
And so she just said, I've kind of been mostly pretending to heal people, but I felt it from Cassian. I felt this aura around him. So I thought it was really cool to see that. And then Bix really buys into it as well, doesn't she?
Really does. I think this is my favorite part of the episode, honestly, just the way they did it. And they don't really use there's no Jedi or Sith really in this show. I mean, no, there's not. We haven't seen a lightsaber, and I don't think we will, and I don't want to. But Cassian thinks of it as like a snake oil salesman back in the day, or like how we think of psychics today, where it's like, like I don't really trust this person, But she knew exactly where the wound was, and he was like, that kind of blew him away a little bit. Yeah, and just the way she says, like, I've been faking this the whole time, but something draw me to you, and it seems like it worked. This blaster, wound was not healing, and then it even ties into Bix leaving at the end of episode 9, I think, where she's like, I think this Force healer really like changed her mind into where Andor is more important than their relationship when it comes to the greater cause. So yeah, I really love this scene.
Well, I mean, we might as well just touch on that quickly. So at end of episode 9, Cassian says, I'm leaving. I'm done with all this now. I want what I want, which is you. And I want us to have a life. And if we keep doing this, it's not going to end up that way. So he decides that he's going to he's quit doing stuff with Luthen. He's leaving the rebellion. He just wants the two of them to be there. Bix takes the coward's way out and leaves in the middle of the night. I always love the fact that they live in what seems to be a very open, planned, like,
it's a nice house.
But she's recording a message to him in the middle of the night, and he doesn't wake up at all.
He was tired.
Where are you sat? Like, okay, he's just come back.
Maybe it was the tea.
Well, maybe he's just come back from the Gorman massacre and then saved Mon Mothma, so he's probably a bit tired. He probably needs a good nap, to be fair.
Yeah, so. He probably woke up at like noon.
Yeah, nice line. I wish I had that. But yeah, so she just leaves him tonight saying, I believe that you've got this purpose, that what she said, what the Force leader said was true, and we all know that it is true. He's got a destiny at the end of the day of where he needs to be. Do you think we see Bix again next week, or is that kind of it?
I feel like we need to see a reason why she's not in Rogue One. Unless, I guess it makes sense, though, if she says, when it's over and we win, I will come find you and we can be together. And it's like, well, that technically happens, but Andor is not there. I honestly cannot wait to watch Rogue One again after episode 12. It's been a while since I've seen it, too. Like, some of the parts are a little hazy for me, so I'm very excited to watch that. But yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few, because Luthen's not in Rogue One, right?
No.
That's going to be so tragic, because we obviously have to see what happens to him, and he's staying behind on Coruscant. So
I pegged that by the end of this series that Dedra, Luthen, and Bix would all die.
Yeah.
Maybe Bix just disappearing now, that just takes her off the board. I don't think we necessarily need to see her next week. I think, like she said, I'll come and find you once we've won and you've done what you need to do. So maybe that just takes her off the board, and that's fine. We don't really need to then. She wasn't like a big enough player in the season to really like be pining after her, going, where is she during the original trilogy? I think that's fine.
He moves on quick. Jin.
Well, he was about to die. He's like, if I can get one more hit in before
right?
he dies,
Yeah, that's fair. I would do the same thing.
I still think Dedra and Luthen die because there is a scene from the original trailer where we see Dedra in Luthen's shop pointing a pistol at someone, looking very angry, and we haven't seen that scene yet. So I'm wondering if maybe
she finds out about Cyril.
Well, she finds out about Cyril. She finds out about Luthen. Or she's trying to track down Andor because he's the one that killed. Well, she thinks that he's the one that killed him. Leads her to Luthen. She confronts Luthen, kills him, and then Cassian comes and kills Dedra because she can.
Or Clea. Clea could do it.
Yeah, that's fair. She would have a reason to, but
yeah,
I think if you're tying them all together, because she it was weird in the fact that what was it, a couple of episodes ago, she was saying we've got to find Andor is a high priority in the ISB.
Yeah.
Nothing since because it's been 3 years.
That's true.
So I think maybe Dedra takes out Luthen and then Cassian takes out Dedra, and that's them off the board. Then don't need to worry about them, and it's job done. Episode 8 though, let's crack on to that. The massacre itself. So the tension building from here is, as we said before, and the fact that Cassian arrives on Gorman after Luthen sent him there to take out Dedra. He goes back to the same hotel. Obviously, the reception dude recognizes him and has obviously done him a favor by not technically logging him in, and seems to be working for the. And we get the old rebellions are built on the Hope line from him
from Rogue One,
exactly tying everything together. And obviously, what I love about the setup to the massacre itself is those who realise what's going on before the public even have come close to. So Cyril's obviously working things out. I love the fact that he goes to confront Dedra, and we see a side of Cyril that we haven't really seen before. So he's been working everything out. He's worked out that the propaganda being told by the journalists that are in the plaza, the local rumours going on that they're forget about them now because it's not important because the Empire's off doing their shit already on the planet. And so he's worked out that there's a big setup here, and he goes to confront Dedra. Although I love that scene where he goes into the HQ and he goes into the room with all the security droids. Yeah. And there's just that one security droid staring him down. And I was like, that's got to be K2. Sure.
I thought it was too, yeah.
That'd be brilliant. Obviously, he goes up to confront Dedra, and she's falling apart herself a bit at this moment because she realises what's got to happen and what's going to happen. And so this very staunch, fairly clever woman that we've seen throughout all of Andor so far is now in a mess because she's like, I didn't really sight. It's different when you're in the ISB headquarters coordinating all this shit, because we saw it in season 1 on the uprising of Ferric. She fell apart and Cyril managed to save her because she shit herself. And here she's absolutely fucking falling apart. Cyril confronts her, even chokes her out, which I thought was fucking amazing. Because after the whole turn the lights out scene, we all assumed that Dedra's the one that pegs Cyril. And now maybe it's the fact that Dedra gets tied up and choked out by Cyril in the lights out situation.
You'd be surprised.
So maybe we're a little bit wrong about what the dynamic was there. Maybe she likes to be passive because she's so aggressive in her everyday job. So
right. But I was really hoping for more of a redemption arc from Cyril after. You know what I mean? No, not like a huge redemption arc where he goes on and joins the rebellion, but just doing something positive for the Gormans before he dies, instead of, because it seemed like he was the first pawn and Dedra and Patagras were the two orchestrating it, and then eventually Dedra realizes that Patagras has been playing her along just as the same way they were playing Cyril, and I was just hoping because he obviously stops Cassian from trying to shoot her in the end, which is you were up there just choking her out a couple seconds ago. So what do you care?
I mean, let's finish off Cyril's story then. So obviously he works out what's going on. He storms out into the square, to the plaza, and he's obviously out there whilst the massacre's going on. And you see everything twirling in his head. Obviously, even before the run up to that, he's confronted by the head of the Gorman Front. His name I can't remember.
Chorus.
And obviously he knows what's going on and confronts Cyril about it, and Cyril's just like, fuck off, get out of the way. Like,
Right, pushes him down.
but obviously you see the cogs working with Cyril and the fact that he's like, shit, what am I going to do about this? Because I've been played. It's just that classic story, and it's a good character study as well, and the fact that he's someone that thinks he's been doing right his entire time, of like when he was that weird cop in season 1, and then just reporting everything that he had to when he got that shitty job, and then being with Dedra and then reporting everything he's been doing in season 2, and he thinks he's been doing good for the Empire and serving well as a good citizen, and just realizing that he's been used, manipulated, and played the entire time. And I think he's on that verge where he's about to turn, and he's gonna start helping the Gormans fight the Empire in the massacre scene. And then he sees Andor, and it goes all out the window. And he obviously, who thought that Cyril could stand his ground that well in a fight as well? I expected him to get like wiped out fairly quickly, but he stands his ground pretty well. I don't know how he survived that blast with a grenade going off right behind him at the window, with absolutely no concussion or anything going on. But then he sort of like beats Andor really, and he's obviously got the gun, is about to fire on him, and the classic, I don't even know, like, who are you scene.
I saw your story. That was hilarious.
So just the Wanda Thanos in Endgame was like, you took everything from me. Like, I don't even know who you are. And it's just like that's just Cassian and Cyril in the scene. And then obviously the leader of the Gorman front shoots him in the head and saves Cassian, and Cyril's done. So it would have been nice to maybe see him turn and fight side by side with the Gormans, and maybe gone down fighting that way rather than being taken out this way, because he's been holding a 4-year grudge against Andor.
Yeah, I see it though. They know each other from season 1 too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Cassian barely knows who he is. He was just like some rogue cop that was like investigating him after he killed those 2 security guards in the first episode. And he's been like on his trail ever since. But Cassian's never really crossed paths with him after that, and like doesn't really know who the fuck this guy is. And yet this guy's like been hunting him down for 4 years.
Right.
So it's just a classic thing of one side going for it and the other side not knowing what's going on. But yeah, so I would have liked to have seen Cyril turn and fight side by side with the Gormans, and maybe gone down that way, saving some people, rather than going out the way he did. But still, I'm not surprised he was killed off.
No, me neither. Yeah, and he was there to stop outside agitators when the Empire was kind of the outside agitator the whole time, so complete waste of time.
Nice and ironic. So the massacre itself, is we talked a little bit about it, and the fact that I love that Cassian was very aware of what was going on, in terms of, because he's got that eye for it, he's got that training now, and he sees everyone, all the public think, the Empire just opening up the plaza, they're allowing us to come and protest peacefully again and whatever, whereas they're barricading in the headquarters, setting everything up for this massacre, and as we already spoke about, sends the young green soldiers out there who are first of all taken out by their own, and that kicks off the thing, and then it's just blasting left, right, and centre. As we said, the security droids get sent out and are taking people out left, right, and centre. How are you feeling as we're watching this go down? Because some people are calling it the darkest day in Star Wars history.
I could agree with that. I was waiting for someone to say, I have a bad feeling about this, but we did get, it's a trap. I think Caro said that, it's a trap, or one of those people. So we did get one of the classic lines, but it was definitely, it was just very tragic, because a few of the Gormans had guns. Of course, the people that are in that rebel group, but 90% of the people were just running scared for their lives and trying to exit out one way. Stormtroopers block them off, start firing at them, even though they're unarmed, running back the other way. And then the K2 droids come out just to make sure if there's any survivors, they're going to take them all out at the end. It was bad.
Well, because apparently there was a lot more that went on that we didn't even see. Because they talk in episode 9 about the fact that hundreds died in the plaza and thousands more died in the streets outside of that. So it seems like the stormtroopers and droids just kept on going.
Right.
And just wiping out as many people as they could find. So it was more going on than just what we saw in the square, which is unreal. In terms of the set... Oh. Sorry, keep going. Go on.
Oh, to take the sniper part. We talked about it earlier, but I thought for sure he was going to shoot one of the Gorman people, trying to brush the front. And then at the last second, he switched it to one of his own, one of the green officers, shoots him in the back of the head. And it was so perfect. Like the way they set it up. They sent the guys out there, get them all riled up. They start throwing bottles at them and then shoot one of their own people. Chaos ensues. Like it was chef's kiss.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah. What I was going to say is that the set of the plaza as well was absolutely phenomenal because I was reading about the fact that some people think that obviously this might be like a real place, obviously on location, but it's actually a 500-foot set they built in the back of Pinewood Studios. That entire plaza was a set that they built by hand.
That's amazing. It's a pretty big budget for the show, right? Something came out before it was like almost a movie's worth of budget.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me considering every week is pretty much a movie. So we've got Universal joining us. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much for stopping by. Absolutely appreciate you chiming in. But yeah, so that set is just beautiful. The fact that it's not a real place or anything like that. It's just built by hand just for this exact purpose. And they did a brilliant job with it. But then, so the massacre's coming to an end. Obviously, Cassian is running away with Wilmot. They're pursued by their security droid. They obviously, the dude rams it, and obviously he decides to take it with him. It turns into K2, as we know and love. And obviously the whole broadcast by the Gorman Front as well, talking about, is there anyone out there that can help us? It's just like tragic when you hear that going on as well. And they're just like, can no one hear us? Is there no one out there that can help? It's very reminiscent of various different times in Star Wars when pleas have been sent out from Rebellion, the Resistance, whoever, just saying, is there no one out there that can help us with this? And just sort of tugged at the heartstrings a little bit more to me at the end of this episode.
It did.
Especially when you saw the Gorman Front dropping one by one throughout the massacre as well.
Right.
Just fucking unreal. Like the daughter of the lead, as we said, was just picked up and thrown by a fucking security droid and died on impact.
I thought she might survive that, but I guess he threw her pretty hard. But she threw like maybe 20 feet. It was probably head bounced on the concrete. That probably got her.
I mean, yeah, it's not the softest surface, is it?
No.
But so we get to the end of this episode, and it's just astonishment, and it just like, would it have been more impactful if? Because obviously the way that they've done this series is we've got 4 weeks of 3 episodes a week. Would have been better if they'd have done, say, 6 weeks of 2 episodes. So if this week they'd have ended it, so we had episodes 7 and 8, and then they ended it at the end of the Gorman Massacre, and then you've got an entire week where you've got to wait to see Mon Mothma escape.
No, I like the 3 at once. If they're going to do the time jump after each 3 episodes, if they're going to do 2 episode arcs, I would have liked that. But with the 3 episode arc, I do like getting into the next one right away.
Okay. I mean, because it was just something I talked about when I was on Lee's show yesterday, was that I think it would, because obviously episode 1 was week by week, 12 episodes, whatever. This week is obviously, this series is a lot shorter in terms of 4 weeks. I just thought it might have been more impactful to have it end after episode 8, and you've got a week where we're all reflecting on this massacre.
No, that definitely would have been more impactful for sure.
Got Universal saying, I mentioned Dedra and Cyril's character performances. I mean, they have been pretty good this season. I think, as I did mention, obviously Cyril is a good character study because of the way that he's been manipulated by the Empire when he thinks he's doing the right thing. But Dedra, as you said, is just as much so because she has been played by her boss the entire time. Right. And she thinks she's in charge and setting things up for good when obviously the end goal was never going to be what she thought it was going to be.
She's got quite the mean mug too, that just frown she has on her face all the time, like her lips going down to her chin. She's good at that. She's definitely fit for the Empire.
Yeah. Obviously, we see a breakdown at the end of episode 8, don't we? When she's in that communications room and she just can't
give the order.
Yeah, she just can't work out what's going on in terms of how has she got to that stage where she has let herself have that done to her. So it's good to see. I'm excited to see how she reacts after this because it's going to be a year on since that happened, and I want to see where she's at after all this.
She's probably got a promotion hanging out back at ISB headquarters.
It was interesting to see after, obviously after season 1, and she goes to Ferrix and is caught up in the uprising and shits herself in that situation. Then and Cyril pulls her out of it, and then we see it. Well, we hear a little bit of the fallout at the start of this season of what happened then, and it took her a bit of time to recover from there and to get back into the good eyes of those above her and stuff. So
right.
I wonder if, like you said, whether they'll have just gone, well done, you did what you were told to do. Here's a promotion, or whether there's any real fallout from it for her, personally or professionally.
I think personally there will be some fallout, but professionally they're going to be like, yeah, job well done. You did great. I know your boyfriend kind of got caught in the crossfire, but we don't really care about him anyways. He knows too much as is. he would have been a liability if he was still alive. So yeah, I think I could see her surviving though, and just kind of being in the background of the ISB in the original trilogy. Obviously she's not on screen, but I could see her surviving.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think the problem is the more of these shows they do where they fill in the gaps between films, the more then people demand to know where are they then in the original films or the sequels or the prequels.
Right.
And it's like I don't need to know if I don't care if she survives this show, to be honest, in terms of like whether the character survives or not. But then if she does, I'm not that fussed about where is she in the original trilogy. You don't need to have any information about where she is. I'm sure knowing what Star Wars have been doing with Marvel Comics recently in terms of they're filling a gap somewhere if she is, and she'll pop up in a story somewhere because they seem to love doing that at the moment.
Oh yeah, she'll be in a comic
of throwing people in somewhere. So it's just like, again, his name escapes me, but the guy who's in charge of like Cassian in the rebellion on Yavin 4, the British dude who was in Rogue One.
Yeah, I don't recall his name.
They ended his story in one of the comics as well, in the original trilogy, and the fact that he gets force choked to death by Vader.
They seem to do that with quite a few. We got Watto, Jocasta Nu. I mean,
so I'm sure if she does end up surviving, we will get to see what happens with her at some point. Anyway, they'll fill in a little story somewhere, whether she just lives out her days in the ISB and then is arrested as a war criminal.
I see Vader taking her out in the next Vader ISB comic series.
Or do you think maybe would you be interested or care at all if she survives this and then we see her in, say, the Mandalorian and Grogu film as part of like the Dark Council of the Empire remnants?
I mean, that would be kind of cool to see her like 20 years later, right? Oh no, like
20 is about 10,
10, right? Yeah, I could see it. Or what about I want to call him Qyburn from Game of Thrones, but Patagras. I could see him hanging around too.
Yeah, he seems like he's probably a little bit older though. He might not survive.
True.
But I would it just always makes you wonder if like you can if you don't eliminate these characters, there's always room for them to fit them in somewhere else. But we don't necessarily need them to do that, do we? So. And then I guess we get to episode 9. So it's focused back on really the story of Mon Mothma for here.
Yeah.
We're back on Coruscant. She's getting ready to give her speech to the Senate about this whole situation because the Empire reporting this. Obviously, I think Luthen says it like the winners get to report the story how they want.
Right. History is written by the victors. That's not what he said, but that's like the classic line.
So obviously the Empire's reporting obviously a lot of propaganda, and they're talking about how there are the great martyrs of the Empire. They describe it, isn't it? So everyone's martyrs because the Gorman uprising killed them, and it wasn't necessary. And obviously they're working hard to stop the people that would obviously support the Gormans from taking the floor. So they're like, the chair has no intention of giving these people any time today in the Senate.
Right.
And they've had to dig deep and use laws to be able to get one senator to pass it to Bale, who passes it to Mon Mothma for her to give her speech. And obviously we get the meeting between Luthen and Mon Mothma as she's preparing, and tells her that her aide, Erskine Samaj, has been working for him since the wedding. We did see them meet on screen at the wedding, and that's obviously where he recruited them. So little bits and pieces do come together from that. But obviously he cares about her and still wants to help her. And obviously Luthen's got information saying that the group that Bale's organised to get her out is no good. It's been compromised. I've got my own guy that's going to come do it, and it's obviously Cassian. So she goes off, gives her speech. Cassian manages to get her out, and then takes her to that shitty little apartment that him and Bick shared in the previous episodes. And they're like,
good view.
Good
view though.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And they're like, oh, Gold Squadron's going to get her out and take her to Yavin 4. Obviously, we got Bale saying that he's going to stay behind at the Senate as well, and deal with things there. And just because it seems to have been glazed over massively, we get our first ever swear word in Star Wars. English swear word, I should say. In the fact that when Bail Organa's talking to her, he says the word shit. And I know it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal for Star Wars, considering at the end of season 1, when Marva's giving her speech on Ferrix, there was the line where she says, fight the Empire. And originally that was supposed to be fuck the Empire. And they decided that we didn't need to have a swear word.
So good.
But Tony Gilroy says we didn't need to have swearing in Star Wars. They've got their own versions, which is like Karabast and Deng Farrik. So they've got their own version of it. But in terms of like English swear words, they decided they didn't really need to have it. And then they just throw it in here. That's just randomly. Bail Organa, of all people, says it, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, a little unceremonious if you're going to do your first cuss word. I think the fuck the Empire would have been better.
I think it would have been, yeah.
But Bail dies on Alderaan, correct?
Yes.
So him staying behind on Coruscant. I mean, I know he probably goes to Yavin 4 in the near future, but things don't end up well. Yeah,
because we see him in Rogue One on Yavin 4.
That's right.
Before he goes back to Alderaan and sends Leia off to obviously fetch old Ben Kenobi.
There you go.
Universal saying there has been lots of swearing in Star Wars, so shit is not the first one. Maybe I'm just not aware then. I thought this was maybe they've said it in comics or in other places. I've never seen it on screen before in terms of an English swear word like fuck or shit being said. Like I said, I know they've got their own versions of like Karabast, Dang Farrik or whatever, but in terms of like proper swearing, I've never heard it done before. That's why I was like, this is the first one we've ever had. So I don't know if it's in comics or books or something, but Universal, if you know where else they've said it, please let us know. I'd be interested to see where it is. But yeah, so I think what was good here is it starts off obviously with the fact that stormtroopers are invading the Senate to go and arrest the Gorman senator. And they're talking about, as he's being pulled away by the stormtroopers, he's shouting to everyone, and he's like, I love the bit that he shouts out, "It's my planet today, it will be yours tomorrow," and it pans to Bail Organa. So very, very foreshadowing.
No. Yikes.
Universal said ass has been said many times in Mando. I don't really count ass as a swear word, to be honest. I mean, maybe you do, fair enough. But I just meant in terms of proper swear words like fuck, shit, cunt, that kind of thing. I don't have to.
Bitch.
Cunt. Fuck, I'll just say it. We've talked about the boys before. It's all
right.
Good.
Yeah, Billy Butcher says it all the time.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so very foreshadowing with obviously saying it could be your planet next and goes to Bail. But obviously Mon Mothma's speech into the Senate. I mean, this whole episode being the big speech that she gives, which is tremendous as well. I think it was well written for the fact that they want to give a passionate speech, but because you're doing it in an episode, you can't make it like a 10-minute speech. It's got to be short and sweet and impactful. And then essentially it's the distraction from Andor after that. So what did you make of this episode following the massacre?
Well, the speech was great. How she says the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. And it's just where the Empire is gaining so much control, they can control the news, the propaganda, the agenda, what people think. And even when she speaks out, the majority of the senators are booing and yelling at her, like, what are you doing right now? When obviously she's telling the truth. And these other senators probably aren't bad people. Some of them are. Some of them are probably just going with what they've been told. They're not trying to get in trouble. They just want to, stay quiet, stay alive. But it was very brave of her to do that in front of. I'm surprised we didn't see like a Palpatine like silhouette off to the side or something. I guess she probably wouldn't have. She might not have made it out of there if he was around. You know what I mean?
It's something I talked about in terms of how much more impactful would it have been if
just the hood.
When she's giving that speech, it just pounds off and just clips to him sat in his little Senate room underneath the Senate and just watching the speech, and you just see the fist crunch. Did you watch Bad Batch?
I didn't finish the last season.
So I think it was maybe in the near start of season 2 or something when they were discussing in the Senate about the destruction of Camino.
Right.
And the alarm the blaring goes off and Palpatine rises up out the middle. And obviously Ian McDiarmid himself returned to give that speech in Bad Batch.
I saw that part, yeah.
if they'd done a similar thing where, like, just as she finishes the speech, the sirens go off and Palpatine rises up out of the middle, and you hear the like dooming music in the background, and you didn't even need him to say anything. You just see him with his like little Sith eyes underneath the hood, just staring down on Mothma, and she just goes, "I'm fucking out," and it just goes.
That's my cue.
Imagine like how like spine tingling that would have been just to have got that little glimpse of Palpatine coming up out in the middle of the Senate, just to look at her after she said, the thing that we're all the evil we're trying to just like defeat here is Emperor Palpatine himself.
Yeah, she even says his name. It would have added so much. I know Tony Gilroy didn't want to touch Vader and Palpatine, and that makes sense. This isn't the type of show for them. But even like you said, just either down underneath and he's just mad and he doesn't say a word, or he rises up and then it cuts away as soon as he like pans over and stares at her. They could have done that. They could have gone away
that
with
feels like something Palpatine would have been interjected in as well.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Whilst the dickheads in the background were running around trying to cut off the feed, thousands of senators are still going to hear this. To have had Palpatine interrupt it and come up, I think they really missed a beat by not doing that. I think it could have been so good.
Mm-hmm. And the monster we helped create, she says too, Emperor Palpatine.
Just so much of that speech was good though, because what she says, the distance between what we're told and the truth that we have is become an abyss. It's
awesome.
just so fucking unreal. And then obviously Cassian goes, collects her. They have to fight their way out after one of the spies on on the crew that was supposed to get her out.
Right.
Claims to be a member of the ISB, and Cassian just straight up shoots her in the face, and then shoots the driver as well.
Quick, easy. Move on.
He's like, hey, I found that. Bang. Okay, sucker. And obviously gets her out. We see the episode ends with Andor going back to chat with Bix about how he's going to quit it all and leave it all behind, and Bix isn't having it and leaves them in the middle of the night. So that's this week's episode sort of done, really. I mean, obviously, for people that don't know, I'm sure it's been mentioned a lot of times this week, so people probably do know about it by now, but there is technically a sequel to this episode in an episode of Rebels. So in season 3, I can't remember the episode number, but it's called Secret Cargo. So Gold Squadron are trying to obviously transport Mon Mothma to Yavin 4, and the Empire catches up with them. The Ghost crew are then dispatched to go and help them, and they end up having to bring the Senator aboard. We see Erskine Samaj in this episode of Rebels as well. And then they take her to the big meeting place where she gives a massive speech to all the rebel cells spread out across the galaxy and tells them to all come together to basically fight the Empire. And then we see them all these different ships arrive. We see various different ones that we see in Rogue One and the original trilogy.
Right.
Including like the Mon Calamari ones, and some of the other ones, and so that brings it all together. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Like I said, season 3, I believe, Secret Cargo episode of Star Wars Rebels. That is basically the direct, happened straight after sequel to episode 9 here. I was hoping because there's a little bit in that episode of Rebels where they show Mon Mothma giving a bit of speech. And I was hoping it was going to be the same one that she obviously gives in the Senate, but it was a bit different. So I don't. Apparently, there there might have been a different speech that when she was preparing to leave Coruscant, she might have given another speech,
right?
And then she goes and obviously gives the speech as she does aboard the Ghosts to bring the rebellion together. So
right.
But that was it. A year's jump to next week's episodes. Where do you expect it to go next week, and what do you want to see from the finale episodes?
Well, I guess we're done with Gorman. I don't see us going back there. And even Wilman's girl, he's a real ladies' man. Apparently, she came with him, and the old guy, he seems like he's just over it, not gonna.
Sorry, because you were talking about that. I forgot to mention, obviously, two people we get to see at the end of episode 9. So Melchi is back from Rogue One, and who was in prison with Andor and who he escapes with. And then obviously they activate K2SO.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if unless I've annoyed you, please point that gun somewhere
else.
Right. sorry to interrupt you. I just kind of forgot we haven't mentioned that yet.
I don't know where they're gonna go. Obviously, Yavin will be a big part of it. And people are gonna start dying. But what's the beginning of Rogue One? Can you remind where's
So-
Andor at the beginning of Rogue
So
One?
apparently, where the finale episode or the end of the very last episode, it will end about 15 minutes before we see him in Rogue One. So he's on a place called the Rings of Kafrene, which is like the planet that we do meet him on. So that's apparently where the finale episode will end up with Cassian.
Okay.
So that's where we're literally going to see him. Is like 15 minutes before Rogue One.
I would like to see Bix. I would like to see something with Bix in the last 3 episodes too, to end that story.
I mean, I would like to see a little extra tie into Rogue One. So because obviously they when we meet adult Jin in Rogue One, she's obviously on a Imperial transport being taken to a prison, and the rebels intercept it, and K2SO rescues her rather violently, but he rescues her. So I would like to see a sort of a bit of where they're like in the control room at Yavin 4 saying, they're talking about the fact that the rumors of the Death Star are starting to come out.
Ooh,
And they're like,
yeah.
we need to find Galen Erso or someone that has a connection to him. And they're like, well, actually, we found his daughter, Jin. And they're like, right, K2 and a crew, go and get her. So I'd like to see that just slotted in as like a connection to Rogue One.
That would be cool. Do you want to see Jyn Erso cameo or no?
I don't want to see her. I just think they need to have that tie-in,
Right.
Where they go okay, we've located Jyn Erso, let's go and get her and see if we can, find her father because he's the one that's designing the Death Star. And
Right.
that's where they're like, K2, take a crew, go and get her. And so I'd like to see that just thrown in the last episode, just so we've got that extra connection to Rogue One.
Yeah.
In terms of what else we see, it's really bizarre because I don't see. The whole point of these episodes was getting, like, the whole point of, I mean, we haven't had as much Cassian as I would want, given that this series is called Andor. In the 9 episodes, I think we could have had a lot more of him, and it's been very much concentrating on what the Empire has been doing and building up, and then building up the rebellion at the same time. So we were getting to a point where they wanted to sort of tell the audience that Cassian was now all in with the rebellion, which we kind of got to, and then they were like, Cassian wants to leave. And so Bix has had to leave to make him stay with the rebellion and fulfill his destiny, so to speak. And so we assume it a year on, Cassian's all in with the rebellion now. So really, between getting where the start of next week's episodes to Rogue One, there isn't a lot to do with Cassian. He's already in. He's already in it. He's doing his stuff.
Yeah.
So really, these next 3 episodes are to tie up like the stories of all the side characters. So
Who aren't going to make it?
Yeah, Dedra, Luthen, Clea. Anyone else that's lying around that we haven't really seen tie up the story yet. So
yeah, that's true.
So that's what I think is going to happen next week. It's not going to concentrate too much on Cassian because there's not a lot really of his story to tell between that and Rogue One.
That's true.
Unless the fact that in the big speech he gives to Jin on Yavin 4 before they go off to Scarif, he's like, we've all done things for Rebellion that we regret. So if you want to see him doing a few more dirty, and obviously I assume he's talking about all the shit he's done for Luthen, really. But unless you want to see him doing a bit more violent stuff, I just think the next few episodes are really just tying up the. What is that sound in the background? Sorry.
Is that me?
I think so. Yeah.
Someone just fired up a blower.
Okay. So yeah, really, it's just all about tying up the loose ends, I think, in the next few episodes, and saying whether Dedra and Luthen, I don't think makes it.
I know. I need to see one more good monologue from Luthen before he goes out, though.
And Stellan Skarsgård has done a fantastic job as well, because he said he didn't he say, I'm sure somewhere he said that he's got like early onset Alzheimer's or something.
Really?
And so like he had trouble in season 1 remembering his lines. So the big speech he gives in season 1, I might be wrong about that. I'm sure it was something about like he had something with struggling remembering his lines nowadays because of something going on health-wise.
Okay.
And so that made him remembering his monologues in season 1 really difficult. And so the fact that he got to do that big monologue in season 1, he's like, I'm really proud of that because I struggled to remember my lines a lot of the time.
Wow. He killed it too.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see where we go next week. Universal's got some stats for us on the viewers for each group of episodes. So we've got episodes 1 to 3 got to 248 million and didn't crack the top 10. Episodes 4 to 6 got 481 million and reached number 4 in the top 10 charts.
Is that minutes viewed? Is that what that is?
Sorry, say again?
Is that like 481 million minutes viewed? Is that how they do that? Because it can't be 481 million people.
I
That's
I
like
doubt
more than
it's.
that's
To be fair, well,
that must
worldwide
be
you can.
minutes, right? It must be minutes.
I don't know. Maybe Universal can let us know what the metric is on that one. And then episode 7 to 9, 714.5 million, number 2 on the top 10 charts.
Wow.
I mean, episode 8 has been rated 9.8 on, I think it was IMDb.
Wow.
And it's already cracked into the top 10 rated episodes of all time of any TV shows.
Yeah, there's only like that Breaking Bad episode is like a 10. I think that's all they got.
Although, interestingly, they also rated episode 9 a 9.8, which I don't think it was that high.
It was good. It was a 9.
Well, this is obviously from reviews by people as well. So I think like
Right.
the episode 8 that got 9.8 at the time of when I looked at it, it was like 11,000 reviews.
Right.
So 11,000 people rating it 9.8 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Immediately puts it in the top 10 episodes of all time of any TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you rate the season so far? I mean, is Andor something that has blown you away in terms of seasons 1 to 2 so far, and is an absolute must-be inclusion for Star Wars going forward?
I don't want to get like.
I mean, if you could take your
crucified at
magic
the
wand and go, you can erase bits of Star Wars here and there. We go, this wasn't necessary. It's not needed. We're not talking about the Acolyte or the sequels. Don't worry. But just any bits that you want to and go, it's not essential viewing, but people might enjoy it, or this is absolutely essential viewing. We won't erase this from the timeline. Where would you put Andor?
Well, I'm like you. I would have not hated an Acolyte season 2. I didn't enjoy the season 1 very much, but I feel like they did just enough to get one more season, one more crack at it. So I'm not the biggest hater when it comes to things. I really do try and enjoy things. I feel like it has done a pretty good job of showing how the rebellion was created. I know Rebels does a good job of that, but that's an animated show. So it is a very important piece of Star Wars lore to see how all these splinter cells got together. Mon Mothma stood up against the Emperor in the Senate, So yeah, I do think this is essential. Has it blown me away? Is it Mandalorian season 2? No, it's not that on that level for me, but it's pretty close.
Because obviously it's getting an awful lot of praise. And
well, critics love this type of stuff because it's like
yeah,
more mainstream than Mandalorian. You know what I mean? Like,
and calling it like the best Star Wars content in 20 years.
With no Jedi or Sith, though, can you really call it the best Star Wars stuff ever when the most important part isn't really?
I think that's a huge debate, though, isn't it? Because I think nowadays people want to see more stuff away from the Jedi and Sith because everything's been so concentrated on them. But Jedi and Sith are what made Star Wars.
Right.
So I kind of agree that you can't have the best, absolute top of the pile Star Wars content without Jedi and Sith being involved.
Or the Force, the Force. You know what I mean? A Force user.
So you do need to have that in there because that's the bottom line. That's what Star Wars is about. It's about the struggle between good and evil, and it's the Jedi and the Sith or the Force users against each other. So yeah, I agree in that point. If you're going to have the stuff that's top of the pile, you have to have the Force users involved. Does this? I mean, we'll probably might have a better view of it after next week's episodes and the season's finished, and then because you watch this and then you can watch Rogue One, and then maybe because you can almost include Rogue One as part of it, don't you? Rather than it being like 2 seasons, it's 2 seasons on Rogue One. It's
3 seasons, yeah. Rogue One is season 3.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But where is this the best TV show that Star Wars has done? If we take out the films and just concentrate on the TV shows,
it's the most well done, cohesive story that they've told. I mean, Mandalorian season 2 is my favorite.
Yeah.
But there are a couple filler episodes, like, a couple Monster of the Week episodes. They're still fun, but I feel like this is really the writing and the acting. Everyone gives it their best. I think Genevieve O'Reilly is amazing. Stellan Skarsgård's amazing. Like, I think there's just like a prestige level of television when it comes to the show where it's just different, you know what I mean?
I think that's a really good point though, because it's the most well written, cohesive Star Wars show that we've got. Even people say things like Clone Wars and Rebels are peak TV for Star Wars, but some people put that separately because it's animated.
Well, Rebels is peak. Clone Wars is a lot more filler than Rebels.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, Clone Wars is a lot of filler episodes and a lot of like mini arcs here and there, and it's just designed to fill in like characters here and there around the Clone Wars, rather than it being a cohesive thing from start to finish, because you know where it starts and you know where it's going to end. I've always had a big issue with the finale of Clone Wars that focused too much on Ahsoka and the Siege of Mandalore. It needed to focus on the wider Clone Wars story rather than just them. But it was still fucking epic. So I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, I agree in terms of, yeah, I think you've hit it on the nose. The most cohesive, well written, consistent Star Wars TV show, but not necessarily in terms of individual bits of brilliance the best. Because can you really beat the Mandalorian season 2 finale?
No, you can't.
No. That's probably the single best episode of Star Wars I think we've had.
Yeah,
Star Wars TV. So
yeah, I mean, Grogu leaving Mando was very emotional for me. That was tough to watch.
And that was back in the days when I used to smoke weed as well, and I was stoned as hell watching those episodes. It's so emotional.
Right.
So I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I can't cope with this. Oh, it's too much. It's too much. And obviously, just the whole them invading the ship and then Luke turning up and killing all the fucking the troopers and shit. It's just epic Star Wars. Yeah. But Caleb, amazing. Thank you so much, buddy, for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Any big episodes coming up for Why So Sidious that we should be aware of? Season 2 of Netflix Daredevil, perhaps?
I know. I finished it before Born Again came out. I want to clarify that. Yeah, definitely. We should definitely do on that soon. We're gonna have a big break, like you're talking about. Andor finale next Tuesday, and then we're gonna have a break till July, really, when Fantastic Four and Superman come out. We'll be doing Last of Us like combo episodes, but yeah, maybe do some drafts, some nerd therapy, some more fun out of the box thinking type of episodes.
How's the box office draft going?
I drafted Snow White, which is such a bad idea.
Oh, buddy,
come on. It was my second to last pick, so I was hoping it would just maybe make like $300 million, which it didn't even make that. I do have Thunderbolts. Dave has Captain America. And Thunderbolts hasn't been making as much money as I thought it would with all of the praise it's getting.
I've not even seen... Yeah, that's interesting, because normally you see the figures plastered out after the first weekend or first week and stuff like that. I've not seen any figures thrown around. I've just seen everyone saying about, obviously, how good it is.
I think it's around 200... Oh, 270. 270. And Captain America made like 430 or a little over 400 million, which is not very good.
I mean, considering we're 9-10 days on now from Thunderbolts being released,
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's not too bad. I maybe expected a little bit higher, to be honest, given the praise it has been getting and everyone rushing to do it. I presume you got to go. You guys got to go see Revenge of the Sith, didn't you, the other week in cinemas?
I saw it twice. It didn't come out there?
Yeah, we got to see it. It was out for 4 days. Because interestingly, I got to see it last year in the cinema. Because the biggest cinema chain over here is called Odeon, and last year they re-released Episode 1, Phantom Menace, for 25th anniversary.
Right.
And then what they decided to do is every week for 10 weeks released the next film in the series. So they basically re-showed all 10 films in the cinema over 10 weeks, so one film every week, apart from Solo was the only one they didn't do. So all 9 saga films plus Rogue One.
Wow.
Obviously in episode order, starting off with the 25th anniversary of Episode 1. So I decided I was going to go and watch all the ones I hadn't seen in the cinema. But I mean, I went originally for Episode 1 because it's 25th anniversary. I think I actually saw that 3 times over the space of a week because people want to go with me to watch Star Wars. What can I say? So I ended up going a few times to see it. And then I went and saw Revenge of the Sith because when it originally got released 20 odd years ago in 2005, I was a head chef at the time in my former life, and I was so fucking busy I didn't get a chance to go to the cinema to watch it. So I was really upset that 20 years ago I never got to see it. So I made a big deal about going to watch it last year, which I did. And then I watched the original trilogy as well, because Rogue One and the sequels and Episode 2 and whatever I'd already seen in the cinema, and obviously not that long ago. So I was like, original trilogy, never seen them in cinema, so I went and watched them as well. So then I can say,
nice.
all 11 Star Wars films I've now seen in the cinema officially.
I need A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Those are the two I haven't seen. I saw Revenge of the Sith 8th grade.
Young bastard. What's 8th grade over there? How old were you? How old were you in 8th grade?
2005, 14?
Oh, yeah. I suppose I'm not that much.
13, 14?
2005, so I was, oh my God, what, 10, oh, okay, 10 years ago. So I was just thinking, 20 years ago, sorry. So I'd have been 21 back then.
Wow. You look good for your age, man.
Oh, mate, I'm fucking, it's only because I sit down, you can't see the rest of me.
No, you got the wrinkles on, you don't got wrinkles on your face. You're good.
It's because I use moisturizer, mate. It's all good.
Yeah, me too.
No, but it's why I don't stand up on screen, because I look like a melted plastic ball when I stand up. It's all good. But yeah, but back to my original point was that it's 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. I obviously had to go and see it. So even though I was lucky enough to go and see it last year, I went to go and see it again this year.
Awesome.
And it was still just as good. And it's actually the first time since Endgame that a cinema was completely booked out.
Yeah, that was how it was for us too.
Because since Endgame, and obviously because they used to do midnight viewings of all the new films or the premieres when they came out, which I always went to when it was Star Wars, Marvel, anything like that. Every 10 screenings, all completely booked out, not a single seat to find, and they haven't done that since. Even Deadpool's the only film since 2019 they did a midnight viewing for, and that was maybe 2/3 full. So it's not been great. Most cinemas now are like a quarter to maybe half full at the best of times.
Yeah.
I've never seen it more than that. But I remember like booking my seat, and then for the Friday night, the first viewing they put up for sale, and it was instantly booked out. And the same for most of the ones over the next 4 days. I think the only one that wasn't completely booked out was like the Saturday 10 a.m. viewing.
Yeah, same here.
It's absolutely amazing to see that it's still got that kind of pull.
It made like $50 million in the re-release.
It's now officially the highest grossing re-released film of all time.
Let's go.
So that's gotta love it for that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, lots and lots coming up over maybe not over the next couple of months, but in the summertime we've got a lot going on. I completely obviously expect you to be looking forward to Ironheart at the end of June as well.
I'm very interested. I want to see what it's about, how it ties into the White. How do we know anything about it, or is it just kind of
really
Ironheart? Right.
I mean, we know Red Hood, isn't it?
Okay.
Supposedly Mephisto. But they've been saying that for like 10 years about every project.
WandaVision. Yeah.
So it's just the fact that Marvel have decided to do zero promotion for it.
Kind of weird.
We've got like 6 weeks till it comes out, and we've not even got a trailer.
Yeah, I don't like how they do that for some shows.
I mean, it's a bit odd because they either don't care about the show or they don't have faith in it. That's how it feels when it was 6 weeks before and you've not seen any artwork, any pictures, a trailer, nothing. And it's a bit hard as well because this show was actually filmed and wrapped up 3 years ago, and they've been sitting on it since then. So it's a bit kind of hard to know why they've been sitting on it for so long and why they aren't doing any promotion for it. I've seen other podcasters going, if Marvel aren't going to do it, then we're going to do it. And
I've seen that too.
They're concentrating for the next like 6 weeks on just promoting the shit out of it, doing videos about like the comic version versus what we might see in the MCU so far and things like that. So nice to see other podcasters doing the promotion work that Disney and Marvel can't seem to be asked to do for some reason. But
yeah, I wonder if there's a Wakanda ties too.
Yeah,
I see that.
I'm also interested to see if they do an Echo and drop all the episodes at once.
I bet they do.
Because there's been no word about the timeline of episodes. I'm not even trying to know how many there are, to be honest. So how many there are they coming week by week or what? I think they're just going to pull an Echo and drop them all at once and go, there you go, there's a show we're not fussed about, go in and watch it.
Yeah, that's sad to see.
Which is a shame, because this is the new Iron Man, isn't it? So it's...
Right. I mean, I expect her in Doomsday.
Maybe.
Maybe. They're taking that L. They need some characters on there to take that massive L in Doomsday. So,
I mean, they seem to be. Obviously, this is all part of the plan for the Young Avengers, isn't it? So
that's true.
Because obviously, Kate Bishop, Ms. Marvel, the kids from WandaVision and Agatha,
right,
that seem to now be knocking around weirdly in other people's bodies. It's all good. So they're putting together the Young Avengers, and she's going to be part of that. So I wonder if that's something they're saving for post Secret Wars.
Well, no, they got to have the Avengers, the new Avengers, and the young Avengers all going against Doctor Doom.
What about the Dark Avengers? We're going to throw them in there as well, just for a laugh.
Might as well. Doctor Strange can get it together.
Well, I was talking about this the other day and saying maybe they put together the Midnight Suns, but call them the Dark Avengers.
Yeah. Blade.
Eventually, maybe at some point before Mahershala Ali turns 90.
Well, you know, there's a Marvel movie slated to come out February 2026.
Yes, I did see that, but we don't know, no clues.
We don't know what it is. Could be Blade or Doctor Strange or Shang-Chi. Who knows?
Well, I mean, they're talking about maybe Spider-Man 4, but I think that was supposed to be late. Because all I've heard about so far is the reports that Spider-Man 4 is, because obviously Spider-Man isn't going to be in Doomsday, but the events of Spider-Man 4 are supposed to be running concurrently with what happens in Doomsday.
Interesting.
That's what I've heard anyway. So that's why he's not going to be in it, because he's going to be too busy doing his own shit.
And it makes kind of sense because no one knows who he is. It would be rushed if they just threw him into Doomsday after what happened in No Way Home. That he needs to have his own little story first and then get him back on the Avengers.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it coming on. Just let us know one more time exactly where we can find Why So Sidious.
Yeah, we're the Why So Sidious pod on Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. You can find us posting daily content on TikTok and YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. A little bit less, but those YouTube and TikTok are the places to go.
Tell Dave to get his finger out of his ass on fucking Instagram
right
again. The guy takes like 2 weeks to reply to me. It's outrageous.
Come on, Dave.
I know, man. I know. Amazing. Thank you, buddy. I'll be back next week to go over the final episodes of Andor. Got some amazing guests coming on. I've got the Bitches of Dathomir podcast coming on. They've been on before. They came on to do a season finale review of The Acolyte, which whether you liked it or hated it, or whether you were review bombing my episode or not, it's my most highest viewed episode of all time.
Wow.
So the ladies are returning. Trust me,
nice.
all the comments were negative. Apparently, I'm a paid Disney shill, according to my comment section on the Acolyte. So I really wish I was, because trust me, that collection behind me would be 10 times bigger.
Right.
So I'll be back next week with the Bitches of Dathomir, and we're going to review the season finale episodes of Andor. Thank you very much, everyone. Until next time, as always, though,
the Force will be with you, always.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.